Just the other day, I graduated from college with my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering with a double major in physics. And as pretty much anyone with a working brain could imagine, except for apparently my 2-year younger self, the combination of those two things in particular would be exceptionally challenging to complete. Yet, I'm here today to tell you that I have completed it anyway, and now I'm gonna start working on my next degree. However, before that, I was looking for internships, of which I was able to acquire absolutely none. Mostly because after hours of interviews, I was either ghosted or not selected for some unknown reason, and then ghosted. So it kind of got me thinking, after all this work, would it actually be hard for me as a college grad to find a job? After talking to a few of my friends who were also graduating, I found that they too were struggling to find internships or full-time work without extensive effort, and when they did find something, it was usually some strangely ambiguously titled position that was only kind of related to what they'd spent the past 4 years studying. And this seemed exceptionally strange to me, given that we were graduating from college, a thing that our parents and teachers lauded as the holy grail of all accomplishments, the golden ticket to success in this corporate, consumerist, capitalistic society. Yet, here we were with the very ticket only to be told, sorry, we don't accept that discount code on this order. So, in my now abundant free time, I've decided to take a deep dive into Gen Z and the workforce to find out what is happening with the job market. My generation enters the professional world in an unprecedented technological and societal landscape. And yes, I am fully aware that every generation says that when they enter into a new stage in life, but for the sake of my own self-importance, we're going to go ahead and say that my friends are the most unprecedented of all of them.
Gen Z is facing the worst unemployment rate in decades.
More often than not, it's literally just rejection.
As an overly ambitious Gen Zer, the current state of the job market, especially for recent and current graduates, truthfully breaks my heart.
We are sending out hundreds, if not thousands of applications just trying to get a singular call back. And that comment alone made me realize that there's such a disconnect between the previous generations and us, because they legitimately do not understand the struggles that we're going through right now.
I started noticing this weird pattern where a lot of these so-called entry-level positions required you to have a master's degree, 5 years of experience, and maybe a Nobel Prize on the side just to be safe. And it just got me feeling like there's this disconnect. My friends in similar fields have been running into the same wall, and it got me thinking, is this just some kind of fluke, or is there something bigger going on here? And it turns out there's this strange thing that's happening right now in this moment in the workforce history. Right now, there are 5 generations working all at the same time. 5. That's people born all the way from the 1940s, all the way to folks born in the 2000s, all trying to coexist in this same professional ecosystem. And that's almost a century of differences in communication styles and values and expectations around work and hiring. Employers are thinking that they're asking for something simple. Just give us a little bit of experience. And new grads over here trying to Google how to gain 3 years of work experience overnight. And Gen Z grads are out here hoping to land a job that pays the bills and feels vaguely like the structured and supportive world that they've known for the last 17 years from school. Yet employers seem to think that we just crawled out of a group project and wandered into a job interview without knowing how to tie a tie or turn off caps lock. And there's this huge mismatch in this expectation. Hiring managers, many of whom came up through very different economic and educational systems, often expect that new grads are going to come hitting the ground running and acting professional and somehow already understand the unwritten rules of the workplace. It's gotten so bad that many employers don't even want to hire Gen Z at all, because we apparently are just confused or frustrating to the people who are already working there. And according to research by Intelligent.com, nearly 40% of employers actively avoid hiring recent college graduates. They cite issues like bad interview etiquette, inappropriate dress, or needing too much hand-holding. And while some of that criticism might come from real experience, it's also often colored by a lens of old expectations and generational bias. And believe me, I can completely understand it. I've grown up with these people, so I know what they're talking about. But what ends up happening is that these companies favor these older, already experienced workers, which just deepens the divide. And one of the most telling signs of this is experience inflation. A 2018 study by Maurer found that 61% of full-time entry-level jobs now require 3 or 4 years of experience. That's not even entry-level, that's pre-veteran. Even the Society for Human Resource Management has said the alleged talent gap isn't even about skill, it's about companies' expectations. And this sets up a really nasty catch-22. In order to get the experience, you need to get the job. But in order to get the job, you need the experience that you could have only gotten from getting the job that won't hire you. So now a ton of new grads are stuck jobless, not because they're unqualified, but because the bar for a beginner has been quietly raised out of reach of most people. And at the same time, older generations often forget what it was like when they were first entering the workforce. Like when they were messing up coffee orders, or they wore the wrong shoes, or they started asking dumb questions to their boss and they got angry at them. But today's new hires are expected to show up as this perfectly polished professionals from day one.
Gen Z does not care. We were hired for an annual salary rate that doesn't even cover all our bills and contracted from 9 to 5. So we will be in that office bright and early at 9 a.m. every day, and we will be clocking out at 5 p.m. on the dot. No more, no less. And I know a lot of you with the boomer mindset will come in and be like, Gen Z doesn't want to work. They're lazy. They have no job loyalty. Yeah, are you kidding me? In this economy, we are not getting paid enough to have a strong work ethic.
A recent report even showed that over half of hiring managers believe that college grads are unprepared for work, blaming a lack of motivation, time management, and professionalism. And sure, those might be fair critiques, I don't deny them, but in some cases, they also point to a deeper disconnect between the world that trained our generation and the ones that we're stepping into. The cost of living is skyrocketing. The median sales price for existing homes in the US hit $414,000 in April 2025, compared to an inflation-adjusted $195,000 in 1963. And inflation hasn't been kind either. There's consumer price index rose 4.1% in 2023 and another 2.9% in 2024. So yeah, it's really that outrageous for someone who spent 77% of their entire life in school only to then give over half of their waking adult hours to a job, to want a job to at least let them live comfortably. Like, we're not asking for a yacht or some private chef. We just want a 1-bedroom apartment and some groceries that don't require a coupon, hopes, and dreams. And this isn't even the end of it. Just to get to the point of finding out that you don't have the experience to get the job that you had to go through years and years of school, you're also finding out that there's a serious case of academic inflation. These days, just having a degree often isn't enough. More and more Gen Z graduates are starting to ask, was it even worth it? A recent poll by Indeed conducted between March 27th and the 31st of this year among 772 US adults found that 51% of Gen Z graduates believe that their degree was a waste of money. And honestly, it's really not too hard to see why. Students are told that going to college is the golden ticket to a stable, comfortable life. So they go, they take out their loans, they study hard, and then they graduate into a job market where their degree barely gets them in the door.
The market is extremely saturated and degrees are overinflated. Furthermore, higher education, the importance of it is drastically getting lower because of the amount of people trying to pursue a higher education.
Like, think about this. Around 1970, only 10% of Americans held a college degree. Today, that number is pushing 40%, and the percentage with advanced degrees has shot up as well. The result of this is that degrees have shifted from being this huge privilege, this golden ticket as people used to say it was, into an entry-level requirement. And still, that's not even enough. It's created this academic arms race where everyone's adding more and more to their resumes just to stay at the same place as people in the past. In practical terms, that means that today's college graduates are in the same place as someone who just had a high school diploma 50 years ago. That's completely outrageous. And what's even worse is now they've spent 4 or more extra years in school and likely have taken on significant debt just to be considered average. So what do many grads do? They feel pressure to level up even more, to stand out even against the other people with tons and tons of degrees or tons of experience, or they just give up. Some take jobs that pay less than a livable wage, feeling underqualified despite their education. Others continue down the rabbit hole pursuing a master's degree, a PhD, 5 postdocs, and even if they're not passionate about research, they just keep on going because they're told it's the only way to compete. And it's not a coincidence that this trend started ramping up after the 2008 recessions. Employers saw a flood of applicants and realized that they could raise the bar simply because they could. And according to projections, by the time it's 2031, 72% of jobs will require more than a high school diploma. Compare that to like the year 1983, for example, when 68% of jobs need only a high school education, a number that dropped to 32% by 2021. What we've ended up with is a system that it feels less like the pipeline that it was before and more like a pay-to-win game where students are constantly expected to invest more time, more money, and more credentials just to maybe get a shot at a stable life. And the best part is the only ones who really reliably profit from this setup are the people already in the system. Universities continue to collect tuition, loan providers are raking in interest, and employers are benefiting from an oversaturated labor market. Then, when the things just don't pan out, it's not them who gets blamed, it's thrown back to the young people, labeling them as lazy or entitled or unwilling to conform to the standards of society. But what's actually happening is that students are being gaslit by a system that keeps moving the goalpost. They're told to work harder if you invest more and be patient, while the return on investment steadily declines. The average federal student loan balance has more than tripled since 2007. From $516 billion to $1.64 trillion by the end of 2024. The average borrower now carries over $38,000 in federal student loan debt, and nearly double that of 2008 average. For just a bachelor's degree, the average debt sits over $29,000. Some people try to justify it by saying, well, 4 to 12 years of school is a small price to pay for 80 years of life and having a wonderful, comfortable life with your family. But that logic falls apart quickly when you realize that it often doesn't even guarantee that comfortable life. It's just a chance at one. It's like buying a $100 scratch-off ticket labeled Guaranteed Career Path, only to find out your prize is an unpaid internship and a rejection email. It's just not fair. It's absurd. People don't like pay-to-win games for a reason. It kills the fun. And this feels less like a merit-based system that you would think the educational system would support, and feels more like a rigged casino where the house always wins. You gamble tens of thousands of dollars on a degree and the reward is a job that may not pay enough to cover your rent if you ever even get hired in the first place. At least for me, in the past year of my bachelor's degree, I have attended multiple conferences where I've talked with industry leaders and professors, and increasingly it seemed that they were pushing me towards pursuing a PhD.
It really shouldn't be that way. You know, like you put 4 years into your education, you should be able to find at least like a good number of jobs within the field, but it's kind of limited. And so now the option is for a lot of students like me to do a master's or a PhD.
My initial intent when going to college was never ever to go into full-time research. I always wanted to be on the cutting edge of technology, working within the confines of producing real products, making things that can just change the world immediately. Yet I feel that this path is becoming increasingly inaccessible unless I pursue a PhD in some niche area, like something that's funded by the government or some like esoteric mind control research just to secure a job I initially sought to learn about, when even after getting the PhD, I'll have to get the job and still be required to get on the job training to learn the stuff that I need to do for the job. A PhD, sure, it will make me more knowledgeable, but it certainly won't make me more intelligent. Having a higher level degree is not an indication of intelligence at all. It's just a show of time commitment and monetary commitment, which I can understand. For some people, maybe that's the best that they can do. Believe me, some of the smartest people that I know are the dumbest people I know. I mean, if you don't believe me, just go on to any news website, scroll for a little bit, go in the political section, and you'll see what I mean. A PhD simply just isn't the route for everyone to go. This common disclaimer that a PhD demonstrates independent work, seriousness about research, or a superior intelligence often feels like some kind of smokescreen for employers taking a safe choice to save time and money rather than actively developing the next generation of their workforce. Don't we have like the responsibility to foster the growth of a next generation? I mean, I know that it's a stupid thing to ask in a profit-driven corporate world, but I think it's worth asking. Pursuing a PhD or becoming a doctor, a medical doctor, should be a deeply personal choice driven by a passion for academic pursuit or a dedication to medicine and saving lives. It should not be a forced pathway simply to secure a solid job and employment. And right now, I'm exaggerating the situation. I mean, most jobs don't require PhDs in technical fields, but that's right now, and I don't like the trend that's increasingly encouraged and perceived as the primary option rather than one of the many paths to getting hired and continuing to learn when people in the same field who are hiring you may have a bachelor's degree or less. It just doesn't make sense to me. And to compound these difficulties, even if you have the qualifications and you somehow scrape by with the years of experience that's necessary, artificial intelligence, AI, is rapidly impacting many of these entry-level positions that may have been available to someone who had those qualifications before.
This thought of AI eliminating entry-level jobs, they don't need to fight against AI, bro. Literally back then, it was just get a college degree, get a job, work hard, and that's a fast track towards a decently solid life. That's not the case anymore. Now prestige matters. Now connections matter. Now you got a network.
And I'm not one of those people who will say, oh, AI will eliminate all the jobs and it's going to take over the world. But historically, every time there's a technological revolution, it has displaced a certain number of entry-level roles while simultaneously creating new ones and establishing a new entry point to the workforce. But during these transitionary periods, it's undeniably present that there are significant challenges to trying to balance what these new entry-level jobs are. And this narrative of AI primarily handling mundane tasks is frequently communicated by executives and tech industry leaders. For instance, a LinkedIn survey of over 3,000 corporate leaders found that 63% believe that AI will eventually take on mundane tasks typically assigned to entry-level associates. And not to mention, the concern is that not only will they take over the task, but it'll be a preference for AI over human hires, as reports indicate that over 1/3 of US managers would prefer hiring an AI over a Gen Z graduate, citing a perceived lack of real-world experience and higher training costs associated with human employees. This growing inclination to automate or outsource basic functions further marginalizes young job seekers, intensifying the competition for the remaining entry-level jobs that just aren't stolen or taken away by AI. With AI being hailed as this ultimate no complaints, no training required worker, it's no wonder that employers now expect human hires to outperform these robots, because if you can't outshine an algorithm, then why would I even bother paying you a salary and then offering you health insurance on top of that? I mean, a robot sounds like a great deal. And I think this is largely a reason for employers that keep inflating these job qualifications so that they can just slot a new hire into the workflow with as little friction as possible. And I think ideally, they want someone who can just walk in, be told what to do once, and then handle it perfectly without needing a follow-up or any extra instructions. And whether that comes from like a workplace burnout, corporate belt tightening, or just plain impatience, it just creates this system where the most finished candidates get through. And when I say finished, I mean that people who already know everything, which is a wild thing for someone applying to an entry level to be expected of. And this shift is clearly reflected in the steep decline of employer-provided trainings. Older generations, especially baby boomers, often got hired straight out of high school and learned everything that they needed to know on the job. They stayed with the same company for 8 to 10 years or more. When I talk to old relatives about the hiring process today, they're often shocked at how intense and exclusionary it's become. Back in their day, training was expected, not a luxury. So what in the world happened to all of this on-the-job training? The training didn't vanish, it was cut, and it was cut for the younger generation. Between 2002 and 2020, the rate of employer-sponsored training for workers aged 16 to 24 dropped. Meanwhile, older age groups saw a smaller decline, or even for older people, 65 and older, training was increased, which, I think that's perfectly fair, but it also means that workers who need the most support, the ones who are just coming out of college and need the help to get started and need that investment in the workers, are not getting that support. And despite this, many jobs today are increasingly centered around abstract tasks like emotional intelligence and teamwork skills, when the mundane tasks are taken over by computers and machines. And those things require more continuous learning. And yet the very structure of hiring is now designed to avoid teaching anything. And despite a shift in many jobs towards more abstract tasks and social skills which require continuous learning, much of the ability to excel in these areas come from direct experience within a role. While employers shouldn't be expected to dedicate their entire time to training the new people or using a bunch of paid hours to do basic training or send them to training, I do think it's important to focus on a candidate's demonstrated hard work and strong communication skills to make them more reliable in the future. I think during interviews and during the hiring process, it should be looked for to see if someone will be a long-term success by seeing if they have these skills rather than these specific technical skills. A proper onboarding process will allow new hires to learn about specifics of their role and to continuously improve. And this decreased emphasis on in-job training forces employers to raise the qualification bars as they seek these candidates who can immediately hit the ground running with minimal instruction. But the result is that younger workers often are lacking this extensive prior experience, even if they might be a good worker, and they'll find themselves at a disadvantage. And that's a real contradiction. Employers want people with polished job experience, but don't want to invest the time to create that experience for these new workers. And they say that things like adaptability and communication, enthusiasm, those are all buzzwords they say that are qualities that make a good employee, but they all come secondary to these resume bullet points that people may or may not have. And here's the thing, skills can be taught, but passion cannot. When I talk to people who have been working in the same job for a long time, and I ask them, what's your favorite part of their job? They always say something like this, their favorite part is that they continue to learn every day. So why are we cutting off the opportunity for people just starting out to not be able to learn? Why are we pushing younger people to stay in school learning these abstract theory when they could be learning real skills in real roles? At the end of the day, work is not just a product, it's a process. And for these new grads, it should be a place to grow. The workplace isn't like a final exam in a class. It's supposed to be the classroom after the classroom. The school is supposed to teach you how to think, and the job is supposed to teach you how to grow.
If you're struggling with the job market right now, just know that I literally was offered a job, signed a legal contract, was told to quit my current job, was meted and greeted by the whole team, gotten coffee, so excited to have you next week. And then on my last day of my 2 weeks notice for the job that they told me to quit, I was told that the company did not have the funds to bring on a new person and they were rescinding my offer.
But instead of offering that post-grad growth, the modern workplace seems more interested in testing endurance because just getting hired now feels more like competing on a reality show than starting a career, even after navigating through all of the hurdles of the inflated qualifications and the decline in training. The job search itself often feels like a gauntlet designed to wear down candidates. This is further exacerbated by the prevalence of these ghost job listings and increasingly demanding and often dehumanizing interview processes. According to a recent analysis from the hiring platform Greenhouse, approximately 1 in 5 jobs last quarter were ghost jobs, meaning it was published online, but there was no hiring activity that was ever conducted for it. On average, between 18% and 22% of job postings online fall into this category. A 2024 survey from the Resume Builder further revealed hiring managers admitted that their company posted a fake job listing in the past year. And among these, a significant portion posted multiple fake listings. Approximately 26% of them posted 1 to 3, 19% posted 5, 19% posted 10, 11% posted 50, 10% posted 25, and 13% posted 75 or more. This means that after finally finding a job that seems like it met your qualifications, you can actually get the job, there's a 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 chance that the listing isn't even real. Or it might be just some old posting that they didn't have the decency to take down, leading to countless wasted hours of application efforts. And companies engage in these practices for various of reasons, saying that, oh, it will build a talent pipeline, or it will help them gauge the market interest, creating an impression of growth for the company. But at the end of the day, they might be just making the employees feel like they're replaceable and that anytime they could lose their job. All of these reasons don't make sense and make it harder for people to get jobs. And the most unsettling aspect is that a majority, 7 in 10 hiring managers, find that the practice of posting fake job listings is morally acceptable. It truly begs the question, why even spend the time and effort to advertise a job that doesn't even exist? As career expert David Holler suggests, it often comes down to a simple reason, a reason of appearance. Not to mention, even if a job listing is legitimate, the interview process in many fields, including technical fields that I've been part of, has become incredibly protracted.
I applied to this job in downtown Chicago like a year ago and got the first phone interview. It went well. It was like 15 minutes, just talked to the HR girl, and she invited me for an in-person interview. And for the in-person interview, it was at their location in downtown Chicago. I live out of state, so it was a bit of a trip to get there. And so I went there, had the interview with her. It went well. She invited me back. But before I had to do the third interview, I had to study because they were going to quiz me on 3 different things, literally take 3 quizzes. And I had to get like 80% or higher to get to the third interview. I kid you not, like I had to take 3 quizzes, get above an 80% in order to get the third interview. And I had to take the quizzes at their location. So once again, had to take the trek to downtown Chicago. I'm out of state to take quizzes to see if I can make it to the third round of interviews. So, and they weren't hard. It was like simple math. There's geography because it was for, I'm not gonna say what the company was for, but I had to take a like simple geography test, and then I think it was just like testing about the company to make sure I did my research on the company or whatever, and got 100% on all 3 of the tests, whatever, it went well. And then the next part of the interview was shadowing 3 of the people that worked there, and I guess they had to decide if they liked my vibes, if I asked the right questions or not, and go back to her with their responses. And then the final and third part of my third interview, second one in person, was to have an interview with 2 of the higher ups there at the same time.
Sometimes they'll go for like 6 or 7 rounds of these technical interviews. And even for entry-level jobs in non-technical fields, they'll often make people take extensive quizzes or questionnaires that can feel incredibly dehumanizing, like they're being treated like some kind of circus monkey performing tricks for their trainer, jump up and down, clap your hands, and just to prove that you are worthy of getting a job that will help you pay for your bills. This reductionist approach where complex human qualities are boiled down to data points and algorithmically filtered leaves many applicants just feeling completely alienated and unheard. It makes perfect sense that many people would rather just not even bother with the process at all, or they might be hired by someone who has education far less than them. The lack of communication throughout this grueling process also adds to frustration. A survey of 625 managers revealed that only 20% consistently provide responses to candidates, while a significant 11% admitted to always ghosting applicants. That's a huge number. And 22% frequently ghosted, 47% occasionally ghosted. This is insane. After investing so much time and effort, just makes the job hunt even worse and contributes to this burnout, leaving candidates in this limbo and severely impacting their morale and their courage to keep on going. So it only makes sense that many people just want to leave this system, but maybe that's a video for another day.
And when you add inflation, the trade war with the US, and AI, it's created this environment of volatility and uncertainty.
I think it really breaks my heart because a lot of us were growing up in the era where, we're promised like, if we go to college, if we have these internships, if we join these organizations and these e-boards and we do what we're supposed to do, we will have a job.
At the end of the day, it feels like the methods of the past are starting to expire. The traditional path to a stable, well-paying job, which was go to college, get a degree, apply to a job, interview, get hired, and then live a luxurious life, doesn't seem to yield that same results anymore. And maybe it was never like that, but the number one thing that kids say they want to be now is some kind of online celebrity, like a YouTuber and streamer. And honestly, it's really not hard to see why. Why chase a 9-to-5 that you can't even get? And if you do get it, won't support a family, not even modestly. For many people, that trade-off just isn't worth it anymore. So now it's starting to feel like a slow motion game of chicken. Will the Gen Z and Gen Alpha move away from traditional corporate jobs, forcing these companies to finally adapt? Or will people just stick to their perceived safety of a normal job, allowing these companies to keep raising their qualifications and expectations that are required of them just to earn a livable wage? Only time will tell. As for me, to be honest, I don't think I'll struggle too badly to get a job. After all, I didn't get some like useless degree like interpretive dance theory or advanced underwater basket weaving or whatever. But like, for me, it's like, I'm not an idiot. Like I didn't choose stupid degrees. even with that, I may still have to settle for a lower pay than I expected or had hoped for. And yeah, it's disheartening, and it's disheartening to look around after years of grinding through all these prom sets and these sleepless nights in the hopes to get a really well-paying job and realize that even after doing everything that I was told was right, the road ahead is still uncertain. Not because my generation isn't capable, but because the system is at best outdated and at worst actively broken. So if you're watching this video and you feel like it's a bit hopeless, you're looking for a job, you can't find one, you're staying on the edge of the unknown on the job market, or you're starting a creative project, just keep on trying. Just keep going, don't be afraid to just take a leap, and maybe it'll go nowhere. Probably it won't go anywhere, but maybe, just maybe, you'll land somewhere completely different than planned. And if you're at the right place at the right time and you've worked just hard enough, it will work. So I just want to end this video on a positive note and just say, keep going, keep trying, don't give up. You've already made it this far, and I'm working with all of you guys to make it even further. So, best of luck.